Welcome to The Extra on KRDO News Radio, the show that connects you with the topics and issues and people that are important to you, and one of my very favorite people, Catherine Hammond, Hammond Law Group, is here. Hi, Catherine.
Good morning, Renee.
It's great to see you.
Always so good to be with you.
Can you believe the temps already this morning?
I'm so excited.
Are you? Do you like the hot temperatures?
I like the warm temperatures. I like cool nights and warm temperatures during the day. But once it starts getting above 85...
And then you're like me, I'm like, you can cap at 80 and I'd be happy.
Right. Me too.
But I can't believe we're already this warm in May. So it's a change. And well, we have a lot to talk about today, though. We always talk about documents, get these documents in order and be prepared and be ready, which is very important for everybody. Preparing.
Absolutely.
Preparing. But there's a whole nother side to it, isn't it?
There really is.
Yeah.
That's in the estate planning world, we're all under the impression that what we're doing is planning for disability and death.
Right.
And people think that they come to us to help plan for their disability and death, and we think that what we're doing is creating plans and documents to carry out the plans to plan for their disability and death. But I have really come to believe, after 20 some years of being an attorney and 13 years of heading Hammond Law Group, that that's not what we're actually doing. It's just the doorway through which people happen to come into our world.
Right.
And so I think about Susan, who came to us recently with her husband.
Okay.
They came in together, and they are in their 60s. And they sat down in my conference room, and I asked them what had inspired them to come talk to an estate planning attorney. And Susan shared that her husband had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's a couple of years ago. And it's progressing, and they're not sure about the future. And they have legal concerns, and they have financial concerns. And even more than that, it's really overwhelming emotionally.
It is,
She's trying to hold together the fact that she's watching her husband disappear before her very eyes. And not only is she losing her husband slowly, she's also having to take care of him. And that becomes really overwhelming. And she's looking for hope that things will be okay.
Right. And
I think about Mary, who came to me and shared the story of when her mom died. And when Mom died, people started going into the house the day that she died and loading up their vehicles with the personal property that was in Mom's house. And everybody had their own story about why it made sense for them to be going into the house the day that Mom died and taking the personal property. And everybody came out really angry at their siblings.
Right.
And there are sets of siblings who banded together and now haven't spoken to each other since Mom passed away. In addition to that, they have a child who's not speaking to them, she and her husband.
Oh.
And so they're not only concerned about what happens to the one child who is speaking to them, to whom they want to leave everything, how awful are things going to be for him when they die? And what do they do with this whole awful situation of the family that I used to love has now completely gone away, and one of the children that I raised is no longer in my life? That's a really bad feeling. No matter how much people push it down and try to just accept it, it's just hard. And the young mom who came in and shared the story of how her husband just died in a car accident. And not only is she dealing with being a single mom and having lost her husband, but now she has to deal with the legal system. and it feels overwhelming, and she doesn't feel like she can handle it. This is the stuff that we're dealing with as estate planning attorneys, and the common thread for why every one of these people is coming into our office is because they're looking for some hope.
Looking for hope. And you know what? Let's pause right there because we have a lot to get into, and that's a very great point. They are looking for hope.
Yep.
Because it's a lot. And we're going to talk about this when we come back more with Catherine Hammond, Hammond Law Group on the Extra on KRDO News Radio. Welcome back to the Extra on KRDO News Radio. Today we are talking with Catherine Hammond, Hammond Law Group, and we're, like I started the show with Catherine, we're always talking about have these documents and this document's ready. Having you gone through a situation in your life, me gone through a situation in my life, everybody eventually is going to be there, let's face it.
Right. We're all headed the same direction.
We're all headed the same direction. So we always talk about being prepared, but like we're talking about today, there is so much more to that than just, okay, I've got my documents done.
Right.
It's about hope, like you were saying.
Right. The people who end up in our office come there because they're looking for hope around some sort of difficult circumstance in their life.
Right.
Something hard has come up, and they think an estate planning attorney can help me practically, and maybe there's something deeper. And so I really have discovered that once we focus on how can we help them,
right?
How can we help them and their families experience as much hope as possible through all of the stuff that happens in life,
the difficulties, yeah.
Right. That's what we're really there for. And the documents and the plans are all just part of that. And I think I have had my own struggles in life. Hope is not something that came easily to me. My mom was, non-functionally depressed when I was little. She started to descend into Alzheimer's when I was a teenager. She wasn't able to take care of me in the way we normally want to take care of our children when I was little, because of her situation. I was divorced when my kids were little. I was also taking care of my mom at the same time. I started a business. In business, especially when it's new, but forever, it's a roller coaster. There are ups and downs, financial struggles, people struggles. It's just hard. And the funny thing for me, through all of my life, I've known a number of people who have taken their own lives when they felt hopeless. I started seeing that when I was a child, and it was a theme. I've seen a lot of it. Probably all of us know people who've either taken their lives or who've thought about it. And it's not something that we always talk about. But after watching everybody else in the world who express their hopelessness, after watching so many people take their lives, that when I would go through struggles, that thought would come into my brain. And it's not the kind of thing that we talk about.
No, it's not.
And the more I live this life, the more I see how common that is. And there are still people, all of us have struggles. Some people struggle to that extent, but never have a way to deal with that. And I really, as I have been in the practice of law, just working with people around disability and death for the last 13 years, started wrestling with the nature of hope and what it is in the first place.
Yeah.
Because I grew up thinking that, when I was being raised by a single mom who was depressed and wasn't able to take great care of me, I looked at all of my neighbors, and they all looked like they had everything, and they all looked like
the perfect family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They all had hope. And I didn't use the word hope when I was little, but I thought that hope was either something that you have or don't have. And it was based on your circumstances. If you got born into that family, of course you have hope. If you got born into this family, you just lost the hope lottery. And I thought it was out there somewhere. And I thought it was out in my circumstances somewhere. And probably as I got older and heard people talk about hope, it started to become something that people, particularly in faith circles, we talk about hope as being related to where we're going when we die. Hope means that I know after I die where I'm going to be going. And the funny thing is, even for people who are people of faith, Christians, there are pastors of huge Christian churches who have committed suicide. There's something about that belief that hope means everything will be okay when I die that still falls short.
Right.
And that means to me that it's time to re-examine what hope means.
So and again, like you said, with dealing with folks who are dealing with disability and death, and like we said, we've been there. Mm-hmm. We know everybody's going to be there at some point in their life. We're all headed that way.
Right.
Do you think hope then can be around something else other than, like you were saying, faith, the hope of what comes after? Maybe attach it to something here or now.
Maybe, because after all, what we want to do is experience hope here. Mm-hmm. When our husband has just passed away, when our mom has just been diagnosed with dementia. To me, it's nothing if it doesn't help me in this lifetime.
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning.
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh, fabulous book. And he talks about so he spent several years in Nazi concentration camps, I think from 1942 to 1945. And he was a psychiatrist before he went in. And his parents died in the concentration camp, his brother died, and his pregnant wife died.
Oh.
In addition to just being in the concentration camp, I just can't really imagine anything worse.
Right.
Can't imagine it.
Right.
Talk about a hopeless situation. One of the things that he started doing was picturing himself in the future after the concentration camps, speaking in front of an audience about the psychology of the concentration camps. What was interesting to me about that was that he created that picture in his mind of a different situation in the future for him. And it didn't even matter whether that ever came true or not. He found a way today to experience a little bit more hope. And that makes me start thinking maybe hope isn't a thing. Maybe it's just the way that we learn to experience hope, to feel better.
Right.
And that comes back to what we're doing as estate planning attorneys.
I like how you that's perfect. Okay, we're going to have to take a news break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Catherine Hammond next on The Extra on KRDO News Radio. Welcome back to The Extra on KRDO News Radio. Today we're talking with Catherine Hammond, Hammond Law Group. And Catherine, we were kind of talking about, and like I talked about before, when folks are getting ready, planning for the future, being prepared. We always talk about being prepared. Okay, paperwork, documents, but it's a lot more than that. And as we discussed, it's a lot of hope for folks that you see come into your office. And then it's, what is hope, Right. But this does give hope to the people that are coming in I said kind of like a peace of mind, right? When we were talking in the break, it's like a peace of mind.
That's such perfect language. That's what people are looking for when they come in the door.
Right.
And I think peace of mind in the context of knowing that I am a mortal being, there will be an end to my life on this planet at some point. Peace of mind comes largely through believing that our family will be okay, our loved ones will be okay when something happens to us.
Absolutely.
that helps me handle my mortality a little bit better if I know that at least I'm not going to be a horrible legal and financial burden to my loved ones when I die.
Right. And that's and like we've talked about, you went through a lot. I've been through, and I just told you the last time you were here, we finally wrapped up one piece of something that's, with my parents' estate.
From years ago.
16 years ago. We finally wrapped up one piece of it. Finally, that peace of mind, it is done.
Right.
We didn't have to go 16 years with all of this, And so I can see why that is so important for when folks come to see you. It's so much more than just the paperwork.
It really is. It's that emotional burden.
And
and the people who are in the midst of feeling that emotional burden right in the days and weeks and months right after we lose our loved one, and there's all this stuff that wasn't taken care of well, the days and weeks and months after our loved one was diagnosed with cancer or dementia, it's big stuff. And we were talking off air about how in life it's always something after another thing, and we think, okay, after I get through this hard thing in life, then things will be a little smoother.
No.
And then there's another hard thing that comes up. And my amazing yoga teacher, Jessica, talks a lot about the tilt-a-whirl. There's always a tilt-a-whirl out there going on. And the key for me is figuring out how not to be riding that tilt-a-whirl, how to find a place where I'm going to be okay, like Viktor Frankl did by picturing himself in the future being okay. What are the things that we can do today, no matter what today's tilt-a-whirl is, that can help us feel better, that can help us know that we're going to be okay, that our loved ones are going to be okay, no matter how awful the things out there are. And that's, when people come into our office, they're looking for, practical help with their spouse or their parent who died. Their family is a mess, and they're afraid of what's going to happen when they die because none of the kids speak to each other. They all hate each other. One of them hasn't spoken to mom and dad in 20 years, or they're just really irresponsible. One of them is doing drugs, and they're afraid about what happens when I die, or special needs child.
Yeah.
I've been
how are they taken care of? Yeah.
Like, I can't even imagine how scary that is to be the parent of a child who will never be able to take care of themselves and know someday I'm going to be abandoning them on this planet.
Yeah, right.
It's really scary, big stuff. Cancer. I have a client who came in recently who has a cancer diagnosis and is having some really important body parts removed.
Oh.
At a young age.
That's hard.
It's really scary stuff. And most of these people, when people come to our office, they're people who have been doing a good job of taking care of their families. We have a lot of military in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
They spent their life taking care of their family, taking care of their country. All of our first responders, protecting, the community.
Yeah.
Teachers, we're working so hard at that, and they want to know that everybody will be okay.
Right.
When they become disabled or when they die.
Yeah.
That's what we're all looking for. My word for that, peace of mind.
Yeah, peace of mind.
Hope.
Yes.
That's what we're looking for, and that's what we're trying to get by putting together a plan and documents.
Well, and I think it's interesting that you brought that up because a lot of people won't out of fear. Right?
Right.
I mean,
what do you think they're afraid of?
The unknown. Mm-hmm. That's probably why, right? They're afraid of the unknown.
Yeah.
So, but
and their own mortality.
And their own mortality. Right.
I'm a little afraid of that. Like,
are you?
We all are.
I mean, maybe a little I
right.
am.
I'd like to say I'm not. But when it comes down to it, I'm reading a book called The Grace in Dying. And it talks about what happens to people right before they die and the process that people go to and the peace that universally people seem to come to, at least by the moment of death. But on the way there, so I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think that I'm okay with my mortality until I think about, like, what feeling am I going to have if I'm the one who gets the terminal diagnosis? Or, if I'm in a situation where I can see that my life is about to end, if I'm on the airplane that's about to hit the ground, or in that moment, I think that I'm going to fight it a little bit.
Right. Yeah. In those moments, I would imagine, oh.
Right.
Right.
But there are things that we can do to at least, no matter what it is that's going to happen to us, and no matter what it is that's going on in our world right now, at least experience some peace of mind.
Right.
And some hope.
Yeah.
And I have to go back to Viktor Frankl in the concentration camps, and if he can experience some hope there.
Right.
It must be accessible for the rest of us here dealing with just the stuff of divorce and business struggles and our loved ones' stuff.
Well, it's a really good lesson, though, isn't it? Like what you're saying, in hope in death, then that can be applied to every day. Right? That's what I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to have to take a quick break, and we'll wrap up with Catherine Hammond from the Hammond Law Group next on the Extra on KRDO News Radio. Welcome back to the Extra on KRDO News Radio. Today we're talking with Catherine Hammond, Hammond Law Group. And, very interesting topic today, Catherine. Like I said, we usually talk about be prepared. And, of course, even talking about, everyday wildfire, flooding preparedness. It's all about preparedness, but it's also, like you just said, it's about hope.
Right. And dealing with the real stuff in life, which we all go through.
Absolutely. And I think it does help, me, Catherine. Sometimes I'm like, fear can be my friend, right? Yeah. And it's like, okay, no, there's hope in doing this. There's hope in going out and being prepared and being ready. And there's hope.
And choosing to do this, choosing to take care of the things that we need to take care of is one of the ways that we experience hope. And I told you, hope is not something that came easily to me in my life. I struggled. It always seemed so close, and I thought everybody else had it. And every time I thought I was close, it felt like it was still eluding me.
Right.
And it's still not a perfect journey. I still have real life struggles. My family has struggles. I have struggles. Getting to show up in the office every day and work with this team who is so 100% committed to helping people.
Yeah.
In whatever their life stuff is. That's part of why I do it, because passing hope back and forth between people, getting real about the stuff that we've gone through. People come in and they share the most intimate details of their lives, and that's the only way that we can help them. If they don't tell us about the child who's really off track,
right,
the thing that they're ashamed of, whatever it is, if they don't tell us that, we can't help them. And those are the places when we get real with each other that we can really pass hope back and forth.
Yeah.
And we do that with some encouragement.
Yeah.
And we do it with legal documents and plans to help people make things as easy as possible.
Well, and I like that you highlighted it's not just about the legal documents and plans. There is more to it than just that. Although we have talked mostly about the legal documents and the plans, right? Yep. But there is a lot more that goes into it.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad you highlighted that today. And also, I know you guys always have workshops, right? Every month or every other month you have workshops.
We have workshops every single month. We just had them last week. We have more workshops coming up in June. I'm also doing a lot more speaking to groups.
I know you got some today, too.
Yes, I have a big speaking engagement today at noon, and I'm speaking to the Parkinson's Association, and lots and lots of groups are wanting us to come in to talk about caregiving and how do we get things together in a difficult situation. And we're even doing more and more speaking just on finding hope, pursuing hope in the middle of a life that's hard. So we have a speaking page on our website, and that's coloradoestateplan.com/speaking.
So they can schedule you to come and speak to the group, or
see what kinds of topics we speak on. Of course, there's estate planning as well, and then We have workshops coming up in June, and if you go to our website, they are right there.
Which is perfect. And it's always good and the workshops are great too. And again, because it's the starting. Here's how you start, right? And getting the hope.
It's the basics.
Yeah.
And one step after another, especially with something that we're not excited about doing, like dealing with our mortality.
Right.
We just put one foot in front of the other and do the next step, and we guide people through the process.
Right, which is fantastic. And again, tell everybody how they can reach out to you.
Yeah.
And phone number and website and all that good stuff.
You can call our office at 719-520-1474. We have an amazing team to answer your questions and find out how we can help you, and also all kinds of resources on our website at coloradoestateplan.com.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing I know is because I have, like, when you've been traveling and all that stuff, and I've talked with some of your team members, and they're so fantastic because they make you feel comfortable and everything.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, isn't
They're
it?
amazing.
Yeah. Catherine, you are awesome. And we will talk with you coming up next month. I'm looking forward to it. And coming up tomorrow on The Extra, it is Skin Cancer Awareness Month. Dr. Renato Prado will be here. And an amazing story, too, of a skin cancer survivor. That's coming up tomorrow on The Extra on KRDO News Radio.